So let's take a look at 4 times comedians exposed the dark side of Hollywood, and ultimately paid the price for it. Starting off with the one that everyone was talking about at the beginning of the year.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is.
Wow, we really started 2024 off with a bang when this podcast dropped. I'm sure most of you are well aware, but Katt Williams has been around for decades now, and is regarded by many to be one of the GOATs of comedy. That being said, Katt's not really known for doing interviews, let alone podcasts, and especially nowadays. So when this gem of an episode dropped on January the 3rd, it broke the internet. At the time of recording this, the videos received well over 50 million views on YouTube alone. And after watching the podcast, it's not hard to see why. Katt doesn't pull any punches. He not only exposes other comedians for stealing his jokes, but also talks about how the industry works and how people get so successful seemingly overnight.
This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless.
He also touched on the controversial topic of putting men in dresses, and all the other shaming tactics allegedly used by Hollywood elites.
Right, because P. Diddy be wanting the body, and you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
Because of his call it like I see it demeanor, Katt's definitely made enemies with a lot of people in the industry. So people like him have to carefully curate their circle of friends. This also means that he's missed out on a fair share of opportunities. Now when you expand the time horizon, it looks like everything's gone well for him and that, everything's worked out. And that's because it has. But you gotta imagine what it was like in the moment. To solely bet on yourself and your talent, even if it meant missing out on opportunities and roles that could have gotten him there sooner. It's obvious he didn't want to play the Hollywood game. And as he says in his interview with Shannon Sharpe, the industry tried to make him pay for it in one way or another. It just comes with the territory when you have certain rules and principles that you abide by. And speaking of having rules and principles to abide by, in the early 2000s, Dave Chappelle was seeing massive success due to his work in The Chappelle Show. It was a fan favorite back then and still holds up to this day. But what often overshadows the success of his show was what came after. Dave was offered a hefty $50 million contract by Comedy Central for additional seasons of the show, but with a few catches. Although a lot of details aren't made exactly clear, it's speculated that the show had a demanding schedule, which routinely caused Dave to burn out and miss out on his personal life. There's also talks that the network wanted to have a say in the creative direction of the show, which Dave has occasionally mentioned before. But he himself has said that he valued his freedom and artistic choice more than the money itself. Rather than going against his own values, Chappelle walked away from that $50 million and essentially gave up a giant middle finger to the higher-ups in Hollywood. The concept of leaving that much money on the table out of sheer principle sounds absurd to a lot of people. But as Katt mentioned in his interview, we only focus on the unfathomable amount of money, but not so much on walking away from something that makes you uncomfortable. But still, Dave's image was torn apart. From accusations about his lack of professionalism to allegations about substance abuse, he was really put through the ringer, all because he didn't want to sell out. Dave's also been known to vocalize his disdain for the industry. And after everything he's been through, who can really blame him? To him, artistic freedom, which is typically a byproduct of ownership, is what's most important. Although his core fanbase still enjoys his work and respects him for everything he's done to get to this point, a lot of people don't really care about the tough decisions he's made in the past. Despite walking away from a life-changing contract, critics are quick to call him an out-of-touch sellout. Although now it's been for different reasons. A lot of detractors think that he continues to target the LGBTQ community in his stand-up because it's just an easy target, and he knows that he'll get some form of positive reception online. Like I said though, his fans still hold him in high regard, which is why his newer specials have still received overwhelmingly positive audience reviews. And while we're on that topic, if you've seen Dave Chappelle's most recent special, The Dreamer, then you'll know how much this next comedian meant to him.
Is that a gang sign? Have you,
Oh, like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
Jim Carrey is one of those comedians that everyone just seems to get along with. Unlike other comedians we've talked about so far, he's not really that vocal about selling out and ownership. One thing Jim Carrey does vocalize though is how much he values authenticity and how fake Hollywood has become. I'm reminded of an interview he did on the red carpet of New York Fashion Week back in 2017, where he had this to say.
No. I'm doing just fine. I just, there's no meaning to any of this. So I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am.
They're
I
celebrating.
mean, you got to admit it's completely meaningless.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside.
Celebrating
Do you believe
icons,
in
boy,
icons?
that is just the absolute lowest aiming, possibility that we can.
Man, the look on her face makes me laugh every time. And if you look at the comment section of this video, you'll see that people overwhelmingly agree with him. My respect for this man just went through the roof. The man climbed up to the highest level of Hollywood to find out it's all nothing but a joke. You have my respect. It does kind of seem like he's just over the whole charade that is Hollywood and celebrity culture as a whole. Although, it looks like he did believe in it once upon a time. One of the more recent times he spoke about this was in an interview with CBS, where Jim Carrey voiced his displeasure for Hollywood after the way they responded to the Will Smith, Chris Rock slap.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore.
Honestly, I couldn't agree more. For some of the most preachy and virtue signaling people out there, everyone was quick to not just condone violence, but also give a standing ovation to the man who couldn't control his temper. Maybe Hollywood's changed, or maybe Jim Carrey has. I will say this though, if there's one thing that'll get people to support you, it's calling out celebrities for being so surface level and fake. And he doesn't just stop at calling other people fake. He's gone on record to say that Jim Carrey is fake. Like, it's not him, it's just a character. Speaking his mind has led a lot of people to believe that he's been blackballed or cancelled, but if you ask him, it sounds like he's just been taking time away from all the smoke and mirrors to just be normal. And after seeing how dissatisfied he was with the state of the industry, I'm happy for the guy. Now, although Jim Carrey is not usually that blunt in his criticism, this next comedian is known for getting straight to the point.
If you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and fuck off, okay?
I remember how refreshing it was to see this clip when it first dropped. If you're just another average person like me, then hearing a bunch of very wealthy celebrities complaining about hardship or preaching about the way we need to live our lives can be eye-roll inducing. Look, I'm not saying that they don't experience hardship or that they don't have insightful things to say, but let's call a spade here. We live in completely different realities. I know the saying is don't shoot the messenger, but when the messenger is someone who owns private security and an in-house personal chef, it can be difficult to hear from a lot of these celebrities about the hardships of life, or even worse, hear them preach to us about the world and what we ought to do differently. Kind of like when Kim Kardashian told Variety that women in business just need to work harder. Again, her message isn't even necessarily wrong, but like, come on, nobody wants to hear that from you. Anyways, these award shows are like the Super Bowl for celebrities. It's a huge deal, where everyone gets to see the fruits of their labor and receive praise from their peers in the industry. And although real talent does get rewarded, as it deserves to be, let's not act like it's not a big ass-kissing session either. Enter Ricky Gervais. As the host of the 2020 Golden Globes, his opening monologue made waves across social media for how blunt and funny it was. In his famous monologue, which I will say was ahead of its time when you consider how everything else played out later that year, he roasted everyone. And he didn't pull any punches. His comments about Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein made the audience audibly uncomfortable, and he was able to convey one simple truth while making everyone laugh. Get off your high horse. As I said in the intro to this video, he managed to keep things funny while getting his point across and thus didn't come off as preachy. Now, Ricky hasn't hosted another Golden Globe since then, but it's not clear if it's due to his behavior back in 2020 or for other reasons. Unlike all the other comedians on this list though, he was actually punished in a much different way. And now I'm gonna go completely off course here, but try to bear with me. Ricky Gervais was a victim of his success. I think the positive reception from viewers taught him the wrong lesson. See, the 2020 monologue was amazing because it was real. Of course it was edgy, but it worked because it said the quiet parts out loud, right to the faces of the people who kept the quiet parts quiet. What Gervais seemed to take away from the whole ordeal was that his edginess is what made it great. And that's kind of conveyed best in his most recent stand-up titled Armageddon. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't watch it in its entirety. I just thought it was really bad, and that's because, in my opinion, edginess on its own isn't always funny. And unfortunately for him, based on the reception of this special, I think a lot of his fans would agree. But I'd like to hear what you guys think. Do you think there's any truth to what these comedians were saying? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you're new here, I'd really appreciate it if you could go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe for more videos like this. With that being said, thanks for watching and stay winning.